With North Korea suddenly changing its tone and hinting at the possibility of canceling an historic one-on-one with America's commander-in-chief, President Moon Jae-in sat down for talks with Donald Trump over at the White House. During their meeting, the duo touched on ways to ensure the planned summit is hosted as scheduled and make certain it is a success. Hwang Hojun has the highlights from that session.
Shortly before the one-on-one meeting between the leaders of South Korea and the U.S., the American leader expressed that he isn't hung up on whether or not the Pyongyang-Washington summit will take place on June 12th.
I don't want to waste a lot of time, and I'm sure he doesn't want to waste a lot of time. So there's a very substantial chance that it won't work out, and that's okay. That doesn't mean it won't work out over a period of time, but it may not work out for June 12th.
Trump's remarks come amid North Korea's recent threat to cancel the Singapore summit if the U.S. continues its, quote, one-sided affair of pressuring Pyongyang to abandon its nuclear program. However, President Trump said he thinks the scheduled meeting with Kim Jong-un will be a great meeting for North Korea and for the world. He said the U.S. is continuing talks with North Korea and that it's up to the regime to seize the opportunity to become a great country, also telling reporters that they will know pretty soon whether or not the one-on-one with the North Korean leader will take place. President Moon insisted that there's no reason to doubt North Korea's willingness to hold a summit with the U.S., and Washington should not merely expect failure just because talks with North Korea have failed before.
예, 최근의 북한의 태도 변화 때문에 이 북미 정상회담이 이렇게 제대로 열릴 수 있을지 걱정하는 그런 분들도 있는데 저는 북미 정상회담이 예정대로 제대로 열릴 것이라고 확신합니다.
Despite the U.S. skepticism over the North's commitment to the summit and its denuclearization, President Trump said he considers his South Korean counterpart to be extremely competent and as someone who can help the U.S. reach a deal with Pyongyang.
How much confidence and trust do you have in my president in playing the mediator role in resolving this North Korea issue and the denuclearization process?
I have great confidence in your president. I think that he's brought a different perspective to the talks with North Korea. And I think that his way, the way he is, really is helping us to potentially make a deal.
Soon after the private one-on-one session, President Moon's chief press secretary briefed reporters on the results of the bilateral summit, saying President Moon and President Trump agreed to cooperate to hold the Singapore summit as scheduled.
President Moon and President Trump agreed to do their utmost so the North Korea-U.S. summit, scheduled for June 12, will be held without any disruption.
Yoon even said the two presidents discussed ways to remove possible concerns held by North Korea over its safety and security. So it seems President Moon was able to get President Trump back on the same page as him. Before returning back to Seoul, President Moon made a brief visit to the opening ceremony of the restored former Korean Empire Legation building in Washington, D.C., an equivalent to today's Korean embassy in the United States from 1891 to 1905. According to the Blue House, the building symbolizes and illustrates the Korean Empire's desperate efforts to maintain independence and national sovereignty. When the legation building first opened here in Washington, Korea at the time was caught in a maelstrom of rapid diplomatic changes. 130 years later, a tug-of-war among nations continues yet, this time surrounding the issue of North Korea's denuclearization. President Moon's visit to the old legation building highlights not only the historical significance of bilateral ties between Seoul and Washington, but also his determination to fortify the ironclad alliance and partnership with the U.S. as he voyages through the ever-changing diplomatic terrain. Hwang Hojun, Arirang News, Washington.